He was the man who handed Roberto Duran his first loss. That alone should have carved his name into stone. But boxing's a cruel mistress. One night of glory doesn't buy you forever. That punch, that moment, it echoed through his career like a ghost he could never outrun. He never lived up to it again. What followed was a slow fall. Cocaine, heroin, needles in the dark, and all the lies it takes to keep a life like that propped up. This wasn't just the rise and fall of a fighter. It was a man staring into the mirror, searching for the warrior they once called. Esteban De Jesus was born on August 2, 1951, in Carolina, Puerto Rico, to Fidela Rivera and Jose De Jesus, a carpenter. It was a big family, 12 kids in all, and Carolina was meaner than most places. They called it El Pueblo de los Tumbabrazos, town of the arm hackers, named after men who swung machetes during sugarcane strikes back when blood was cheaper than sugar. In Carolina, violence wasn't rare, it was casual. De Jesus got his first taste early, beating down some punks who jumped his high school teacher. He wasn't looking to be a hero, just fists moving faster than thought, pure instinct. He went to Julio Coronado High School, where he met his wife, Nellie. They married at 18, but school was just a place to kill daylight. He had mouths to help feed, which meant bouncing between odd jobs, garage work, barbershops, metal yards, anything that paid. Boxing wasn't his first choice, but two friends, both amateur fighters, kept pushing him, urging him to try his luck. At 17, De Jesus stepped through the ropes. The amateurs came first. 28 wins, 5 losses. The victories didn't mean much at first, only the weed afterward. One afternoon, fighting in an exhibition at some forgotten park, Gregorio Benitez saw him. I could see he had something special, Gregorio said. I asked him if he'd come with me and turn professional. Hungry for cash and the women that came with it, De Jesus started training under Gregorio's hard hand. The old man laid down his law. No girls, no distractions. Nobody listened, least of all De Jesus. Esteban took a shot at the national AAU tournament, but lost in the quarterfinals. He turned pro 2 weeks shy of his 18th birthday. Still raw, still dangerous. 15 fights without a loss, knocking around Puerto Rico like he owned every ring he stepped into. Then he traveled. Hit Venezuela to face Antonio Gomez, a future featherweight champ. De Jesus won at least 7 of the 10 rounds. Every neutral observer had him ahead, but the hometown judges stole it. He learned one of boxing's cruelest lessons early. Fairness was a sucker's dream. Back home, he snatched the Puerto Rican lightweight title from Josue Marquez. In April of 1972, De Jesus made his American debut, knocking George Foster senseless in 8 rounds. People started paying attention. 5 more fights, 5 more wins. 2 under the bright lights of New York. The whispers got louder. Boricua born, bred on pain and burning to break through. Both manager Gregorio Benitez and matchmaker Teddy Brenner smelled blood and money, so they threw him in with Roberto Duran, the savage lightweight king, undefeated at 31-0. Duran's belt wasn't on the line, just machismo and pride. Training turned into hell. Nobody wanted to spar De Jesus. No one tough enough, no one willing to bleed and hit back. Just when I feel good, De Jesus said. After I hurt one of them, I have to stop. That doesn't help me. I want a couple of guys who will punch back after they are hurt. That's what Duran will do. Gregorio wanted De Jesus to spar with the legendary Emil Griffith, but matchmaker Teddy Brenner wouldn't allow it, said Griffith was too big. So Gregorio went one step further. He brought in heavyweights, monsters with sledgehammer fists, forced De Jesus to dance close, slip punches, breathe the fire of danger every second. De Jesus walked into Madison Square Garden a 3-1 underdog. The gamblers gave him no shot, but scattered in the smoke-choked crowd of 9,000 were enough Puerto Ricans ready to scream De Jesus into victory. They came out slow, cautious, 2 animals sizing each other up, circling, feinting, testing the waters, trying to find a glitch in the other's rhythm, the flaw in the machine. Just when it looked like the storm was miles away, De Jesus dipped his shoulder and fired a hook. A left hook so fast, so sudden, you almost couldn't see it. Duran dropped like a man surprised by gravity. The whole arena went dead quiet for a moment, disbelief hanging thick like smoke. De Jesus casually walked to a neutral corner and watched. No theatrics, no yelling, just quiet eyes watching a man on the canvas. And Duran sat there for a moment, then stood slowly, carefully, like he'd just been properly introduced to adversity. He shook his head, almost respectfully. Maybe he realized something then. Maybe he finally saw clearly just who Esteban De Jesus was. Maybe he saw himself in another man's fists. That left hook, not even 60 seconds into the fight, that was the punch. It changed everything. De Jesus had landed one perfect shot. Duran heard echoes of it the rest of the night. The pace picked up in the second. Two men fighting as though someone had whispered insults into their ears. Duran nailed De Jesus with a hard right, flush on the skull, but the punch had no follow-up. Soon enough, the fire left Duran's fists, but De Jesus was sharp, clear, a machine whose gears never slowed. Those quick, compact combinations anchored by that deadly left hook. De Jesus was a marksman, never giving Duran the chance to turn this into the street brawl that he wanted. Each shot was precise, clean, efficient, no wasted effort. Every punch had meaning. By round 4, the crowd had picked their man. Jesus, Jesus, they chanted. De Jesus landed a combination, left, right, left. Duran ate it, eyes flashing, spine stiff. The crowd stood, roaring, eyes shining with the pure savage thrill of violence. Round 8 gave Duran one last gasp. A couple of right hands that hurt De Jesus briefly, but he had no strength left to finish. De Jesus shrugged it off, recovered quickly, and went right back to work. When the 10th round bell rang, Duran dropped an arm, disgusted, beaten, already knowing how the judges would call it. De Jesus took the decision, flipping the odds the middle finger. He threw on a straw hat with Puerto Rico painted across the brim, smiled and raised his fists. The crowd exploded. For one night at least, he'd outpunched the devil. De Jesus kept going, 2 decisions over top contender Ray Lampkin. They promised him Ken Buchanan next, for the New York title. It never happened. Instead, he stopped another of Panama's favorite sons, Peppermint Frazier, in 10 rounds of cold, methodical violence. The fans roared, the promoters schemed, but Buchanan never came. What came instead was the devil again, Roberto Duran, back for more. A rematch, this time for Duran's crown. De Jesus brought his brujos, island mystics whispering curses, casting spells, chanting through smoke and chicken blood. They lit candles, they kissed medallions, whatever it took to keep the devil one step behind. 1 minute into round 1, De Jesus dropped Duran again. Another hook, clean and perfect. Duran hit the canvas, bounced back up, took the count, shook his head clear. This time, the knockdown just pissed him off. In the 7th, it was De Jesus tasting the floor. He rose and fought back, slicing open Duran's left eye before the bell. Blood trickled down like spilled ink, but Duran never backed off. He came roaring back, round after round, savage hooks sinking into ribs, right hand sharp as a butcher's cleaver. By the 11th, Duran was a tidal wave. A left hook to the skull, a brutal shot to the gut, and then the right cross, clean, merciless. De Jesus folded, finished. The night collapsed around him. But De Jesus was too deep in the game to quit now. 3 more tune-ups, easier prey, rebuilding his confidence piece by piece until he stepped up again, this time against Antonio Cervantes, king of the junior welterweights. It was a brutal, beautiful dance. No rest, no rescue, just 2 wolves in a cage. They stood toe-to-toe, trading pain like it was gospel. The referee standing aside, little more than a spectator. Cervantes dropped him 3 times, fists pounding like pistons. At the final bell, De Jesus stood swaying, battered, eyes empty but proud. Cervantes got the decision. Clear and clean, victory hard-earned. De Jesus had lost again, but he lost standing. Fists clenched, dignity intact. After Wilfred Benitez took the crown from Cervantes, Gregorio quickly dumped De Jesus, sold off his contract to Jose Santiago, a rich former baseball player. Santiago paired De Jesus with trainer Manny Shaka. Manny didn't push, didn't demand. He just laid it out there, quiet. A stark contrast to Gregorio's drill sergeant venom. De Jesus slid back down to lightweight, faced Guts Ishimatsu for the title. Ishimatsu swung like a man underwater, and De Jesus just kept chipping at him. Death by 1,000 jabs. Only in the 7th round did Esteban flash his old fury, throwing punches with both fists, sharp and vicious, ripping into the face and body until a Japanese fighter began to wilt. When it was over, De Jesus celebrated the way champions often do, recklessly. He partied like a man trying to outrun himself. Cocaine and women, all behind his wife's back, behind his trainer's faith. Whispers crawled through the gyms, streets, bars. De Jesus was dealing, using, playing a dangerous game outside the ropes. Then came September of 1976, a hot night when authorities found a shiny sports car parked outside his San Juan apartment during a drug bust. Inside was a check, $39,000, his name printed neatly on it. Questions followed, suspicions lingered, but nothing stuck. Sports stars have a way of slipping through nets meant for smaller fish. De Jesus kept fighting. February of 1977 brought Buzzsaw Yamabe, a tough challenger from Japan. De Jesus, cocky and confident, called his shot like Babe Ruth, promised Yamabe wouldn't last past round 7. He went to work early, battering Yamabe like a heavy bag, dropping him with a swift storm of hooks. Yamabe got up. Brave or foolish, maybe both, only to fall again in the 6th. The ref waved it off, and De Jesus stood in the ring victorious, another battered opponent at his feet, the shadows of his reckless life waiting quietly in the darkness just beyond the lights. De Jesus was hooked deep by then, discovering speedballs, that poisonous mix of cocaine and heroin jammed into one deadly syringe, shooting up in back rooms in dirty hotels, surrounded by nodding strangers and hangers-on, each waiting for their turn. His brother Enrique joined him in a slow dive to nowhere, but as long as De Jesus kept winning, no one asked questions. No one wanted to. He defended his belt once more. Then came the rubber match with Duran. One final, brutal showdown for all the glory. Duran, a 2-1 favorite, walked into the fight bitter and angry, still hot from a scuffle at the weigh-in. This time, he fought smart, surprising everyone by stepping back, fighting cool, patient, clever. De Jesus, the addict champion, couldn't keep pace.
52 victorias, una sola derrota, se la propinó Esteban De Jesus y hoy los tenemos por tercera vez en el entarimado. Buena esa mano de Duran, cayó. Me están contando la cuenta de 8 segundos. Esteban puede caer todas las veces que quiera. Se reanuda el combate luego de una cuenta de protección. Ahí va Duran con una derecha, el uppercut, la izquierda y la derecha por Duran. Está en malas condiciones el boricua y no se defiende. Lo va a matar, por favor. Ese hombre no puede continuar y no va a seguir. Se acabó la pelea. Noqueó Roberto Duran. Se metieron sus esquinas. Hay júbilo.
After that defeat, the whispers turned into shouts. The rumors became truth. De Jesus was losing himself to the needle. He denied it, of course. How could a junkie be a fighter, he'd say, voice steady, eyes lying. The only way to kill those rumors is to win that title again. But winning wasn't easy when every day started with sickness. He came from a big family. Good people who believed love could cure addiction, who tried everything, cold turkey in locked rooms, psychiatrists flown in from Mexico, even a Santero priest waving charms and whispering prayers. He beat Edwin Viruet by split decision, but that didn't silence the voices. 2 years passed before he got another shot. A title fight against Saul Mambi, a smooth junior welterweight champion. De Jesus fought with hunger, rage, desperation. But Mambi danced and jabbed, sidestepped beautifully, punching holes in De Jesus' fading dream. In the 12th, Mambi dropped him hard. In the 13th, he hammered De Jesus until the ref stepped in, waving it off like a mercy killing. De Jesus stood in the ring, beaten again. Eyes hollow, a man losing more than just fights. He was losing himself. De Jesus lost his mother soon after. A heart attack snatching her away without warning, leaving him hollowed out. A shell with nothing inside. Boxing didn't matter anymore. Titles, money, fame, they were all worthless coins scattered in the dirt. Gregorio Benitez came around, hoping to revive his old prodigy, but De Jesus was beyond reach. Heroin gripping him tighter than any glove ever could. He no longer cared about boxing, his wife, or even his kids. On November 27, 1980, he loaded up a syringe with cocaine, injected himself full of numbness, and drove off in his wife's car. A minor traffic dispute exploded into tragedy. He encountered a 17-year-old construction worker named Roberto Cintron Gonzalez. Words exchanged. A highway chase. De Jesus pulled out a .25 caliber pistol, squeezed the trigger, and erased a life. When they dragged De Jesus into court, he shrugged, eyes vacant, soul empty. He said he was so high he didn't even remember squeezing the trigger. In May of 1981, they locked him up for life, sent him to Rio Piedras State Penitentiary to rot. In prison, De Jesus found something. Baseball, of all things. Played like he still had some meaning left. Made the penal system all-star team 3 years running. Later, he found Christ. Born again behind steel bars, preaching to lost souls. He faced down his demons, spoke openly about the poison that took him over. You start with friends, De Jesus said, and you get so wrapped up with the drugs that before you know it, you're hooked. They take you to parties and you start using the stuff. The worst part is when you open your eyes, it's too late. You're already addicted. Then came the news. Enrique, his brother, was gone. AIDS claimed him in 1985. They shared needles too many times, and soon De Jesus felt the shadow creeping into him, symptoms whispering the truth he didn't want to hear. When the diagnosis became public, the governor of Puerto Rico showed mercy, moved him into a treatment center, an old milk factory, stinking of bleach and broken lives. Esteban lay there, frail and thin as paper, barely 100 pounds, in a room full of broken men, wasted addicts waiting for the end. Famous faces came to visit, to look one last time at a man who once stood proud and fierce. Roberto Duran came, the great rival, and when he saw De Jesus, a shadow of a man shrunk by disease, he began to weep, wrapped arms around his old enemy, kissed him gently, whispered comfort, told his own daughter to kiss the dying warrior as tears rolled freely down his face. Esteban died shortly after, confused and weightless, 38 years old, a former champion who couldn't recognize his own reflection. His final round fought in the dark.